What would you do if you saw a billionaire's blind daughter left alone and scared in a cafe? Would you risk everything to help her? Billionaire mother watches black waitress feeding her blind daughter and changes her life forever. The contempt in the customer's eyes was as palpable as the smell of coffee in the elegant Café Lumière. Sitting alone at a corner table, a girl of about 10 years old felt around the table for the braille menu that should have been there but wasn't. Her eyes, permanently covered by sunglasses, didn't reveal the growing fear in her heart as she whispered repeatedly, "Mommy, come back soon. Mommy, come back soon." Jade Robinson watched the scene as she wiped down the counter. The 26-year-old waitress knew this type of situation well. Privileged people who simply forgot their dependents for too long. There was something different about this girl, though. Her straight posture and impeccable clothes contrasted with a subtle tremor in her hands. "Has anyone taken table 7 yet?" Jade asked Kevin, the manager, who was furiously typing on his cell phone. "VIP customers, wait for Mrs. Bennett to come back," he replied without looking up. "She's unbearably picky about who serves her daughter." Mrs. Bennett, Victoria Bennett, the CEO of Bennett Technologies, whose face graced the covers of business magazines and whose perfectionism was legendary. No one crossed Victoria Bennett and kept their job. "It's been 20 minutes, Jade insisted. The girl looked scared. Kevin finally looked up, irritation evident. "Jade, do I really need to remind you that you're on probation? Don't make my life difficult." At that moment, the girl accidentally knocked over the flower arrangement on the table. Water splashed everywhere, soaking her dress. Her lips trembled as she desperately tried to clean up the mess with napkins, unable to see what she was doing. What will Jade risk to help this lonely girl, and what will it cost her? Jade didn't hesitate. Ignoring Kevin, she crossed the hall with determined steps, feeling the stares of the other customers piercing her back. "Hello, friend," she said softly, bending down beside the girl. "I'm here to help. My name is Jade." The girl froze. "Where's my mom?" "She's not back yet. I'm a waitress here. Can I help you clean that up and maybe bring you something while you wait?" The tension in the girl's shoulders eased slightly. "I'm Clara. I knocked the flowers over. Mom's going to be mad." Jade quickly soaked up the water with a cloth. "Accidents happen. You can't even see it anymore." "You're lying," Clara replied with a shy smile. "I can't see, but I know an adult's lie to make me feel better." Jade laughed, surprised by the girl's insight. "Smart girl. Okay, there's a little stain, but nothing serious. Are you hungry?" Clara hesitated. "Mom said not to ask for anything until she gets back." "And when did she leave?" "When the clock said 3. Jade checked her watch, almost 5 o'clock. Indignation grew in her chest. "How about some hot chocolate while you wait?" "I promise I won't tell." The smile that lit up Clara's face was worth the risk. Jade brought not only hot chocolate, but also a sandwich and cookies. She explained each item on the table, gently guiding the girl's hands. "You describe things differently," Clara commented between bites. "The others talk as if I'm stupid." "My younger brother is blind," Jade explained. "I know how important it is to be treated like a person, not a disability." For 15 minutes, Jade sat with Clara, listening to her talk about her favorite books in Braille and her passion for music. The girl was completely transformed from scared and lonely to excited and bright. What neither of them noticed was the black Mercedes that pulled up in front of the cafe. Victoria Bennett, CEO of Bennett Technologies and one of the most powerful women in the country, watched the scene through the window with an enigmatic expression. Her calculating eyes didn't miss a single detail of the interaction between the waitress and her daughter. "Ma'am," her driver asked, "would you like me to accompany you?" "No, wait here," she ordered, her eyes fixed on the waitress, who was now making Clara laugh with a story. When Victoria finally entered the cafe, Kevin practically ran toward her, apologies pouring out. She ignored him completely, walking directly to the table where Jade was now saying goodbye to Clara. "Jade Robinson, right?" Victoria asked, her voice cold and controlled. Jade's blood froze. How did this woman know her name? "Yes, ma'am. I see you took the liberty of feeding my daughter." "Mommy," Clara exclaimed, "Jade was so nice. She told me about constellations we can feel instead of see." Victoria looked at the empty plate, the chocolate, the half-eaten cookies. Her face revealed nothing. "How much do I owe you for the meal?" she asked, opening her designer purse. "Nothing," Jade replied, her voice firm. It was on the house. A tense silence settled over the cafe. The entire place seemed to hold its breath. "All right," Victoria finally said, taking Clara's hand. "Let's go, honey." As they left, Jade heard Clara ask, "Can we come back tomorrow?" Jade promised to teach me the difference between cappuccino and macchiato by smell. Kevin approached immediately. "In my office. Now." Jade knew she had just lost her job. What she didn't know was that outside, Victoria Bennett was typing a message to her personal assistant, "I want everything on Jade Robinson by tomorrow morning." In the world of the rich and powerful, everything meant exactly that: every detail, every unfulfilled dream, every silent struggle. And Victoria Bennett always got what she wanted. If this story about kindness and unexpected encounters touched your heart, be sure to subscribe to the channel to discover how a simple gesture of compassion can trigger a storm of change in the lives of people who never imagined their paths would cross, only on Black Voices. Rain pounded the window of Jade's small apartment as she stared at her resignation letter from Café Lumière. Next to it, an eviction notice and overdue bills completed the bleak picture. Her cell phone rang. It was Daniel, her 16-year-old brother, blind since the age of 5 from poorly treated meningitis. "Don't give up," his voice sounded comforting. "You always said that everything happens for a reason." "I lost my job for helping a child, Danny." "What could be the reason for that?" The intercom interrupted her. A professional, cold voice announced, "Miss Robinson, I am Margaret Chun, legal assistant at Bennett Technologies. Mrs. Bennett requests your presence for a meeting at 9 a.m. 45 minutes later, Jade crossed the imposing lobby of Bennett Technologies in her best thrift store dress. The contrast between her and the executives in expensive suits was striking. In the 45th floor conference room, Victoria Bennett surveyed the city like a queen contemplating her kingdom. Without turning, she motioned to a chair. "Yesterday you served my daughter when I specifically asked you to wait for my return," Victoria began, her voice calculatedly neutral. "She was hungry," Jade replied simply. Victoria finally turned to face her. "Do you know why I left Clara alone for nearly 2 hours?" The question took Jade by surprise. "No, ma'am." to see who would notice her. A social experiment. 17 people passed the table: employees, customers, her manager. No one stopped except you. Jade felt indignation rise. You tested people using your own daughter? A slight smile crossed Victoria's face. Clara knew it's a game we play. Margaret placed a folder in front of Jade. Inside was a check for wrongful termination with more zeros than Jade had ever seen. I'm not for sale. Jade pushed the folder back. Victoria raised an eyebrow, genuinely surprised. Everyone has a price. Not me. And using your blind daughter as bait to test humanity is disgusting. A tense silence filled the room. Margaret looked like she was about to faint. No one spoke to Victoria Bennett like that. Interesting, Victoria finally replied. Clara asked about you. She doesn't do that. Not usually. For the first time, Jade glimpsed something beyond the cold mask, a genuinely intrigued mother. I have a different proposal. Victoria slid another folder across the table. Clara needs a companion. The salary is significant. The amount mentioned made Jade's heart race, 10 times what she earned at the cafe. Why me? She asked suspiciously. My daughter has a perfect ear for insincerity. You're authentic. Victoria gestured, and Margaret presented another folder. Your background is impressive. You dropped out of college to take care of your brother. 3 jobs to keep him in a specialized school. Jade felt a chill. How did you get this information? Victoria ignored the question. I have resources. I know your brother is a prodigious pianist. Wellington Academy would be perfect for him. The most prestigious music school in the country, and absolutely out of reach for someone like Daniel. That's emotional blackmail, Jade said, controlling her anger. This is business, Victoria corrected. I'm offering opportunities for both of you. On the way back, Jade received a phone call. Wellington Academy wanted to schedule an audition for Daniel. Victoria hadn't wasted any time. That night, Jade researched Victoria Bennett obsessively, uncovering disturbing patterns: former employees who disappeared professionally, rivals facing coincidental scandals, a former nanny who had sued Victoria for bullying only to mysteriously drop the lawsuit. But then Jade found something else: news reports about the accident that had blinded Clara 5 years earlier. Victoria had been driving, possibly distracted by text messages. Afterward, the story simply disappeared from the media. The next day, when Daniel played the piano at Wellington Academy, bringing tears to the teacher's eyes, Jade made her decision. She would enter Victoria Bennett's world not only for her brother, but also for Clara, a brilliant girl trapped in a gilded cage with a mother who used her as a pawn in power games. What Victoria didn't realize was that Jade wasn't just a desperate waitress. She was a woman who had spent years studying human behavior before abandoning psychology, someone trained to see beyond the masks. As she signed the contract in Victoria's office with a polite smile, Jade was already formulating her own plan. Because if the powerful Victoria Bennett believed she could buy and control her, she was about to learn an important lesson: not everyone has a price. And underestimating ordinary people can be the biggest mistake someone with unlimited power can make. What Victoria couldn't imagine was that by opening the doors of her empire to Jade, she was allowing a true expert on people to cross her path. As the days passed, the carefully buried secrets of the Bennett family would begin to emerge from the shadows, and the balance of power between them would shift in ways the billionaire could never anticipate. 3 months had passed since Jade had entered the Bennett's lives. The once intimidating mansion now felt almost familiar. Clara was blossoming under her care, revealing an intelligence and curiosity that had been stifled by years of overprotection. "The stars must be like music we can't hear," Clara explained as her fingers traced an astronomy book in Braille. "We feel like they're there even when we can't see them." Victoria watched from a distance, her gaze impenetrable. "Clara has never talked so much," she commented later. "What have you done to her?" "Nothing special. I just treat her like a person, not a disability." The next morning, while organizing Clara's books, Jade found a box hidden at the back of the closet. Inside was a diary and a USB stick. "It's Mom's diary," Clara explained when she felt Jade freeze. "Trevor helped me hide it." Trevor Bennett, Victoria's brother, rarely mentioned that night. After Clara fell asleep, Jade inserted the flash drive into her laptop. The contents left her stunned: photos of Victoria smiling, something Jade had never witnessed, videos of Clara with her sight still intact, and headlines that never made it to the newspapers. Bennett Technologies CEO investigated for driving under the influence. Victoria Bennett's daughter may lose her sight permanently. An email from Trevor to Victoria, dated a week after the accident, confirmed the worst. "Vic, the lawyers managed to suppress the story. The judge sealed the records. The driver of the other car accepted the settlement agreement. Clara deserves to know the truth someday." Victoria had not only caused the accident, she had used her power and money to cover it up. The next morning, Victoria announced, "I have a meeting with the Foundation for Visually Impaired Children. Clara is going with me." Something in her voice alerted Jade. After some research, she discovered that no such meeting had been scheduled. On instinct, she placed a small tracking device in Clara's backpack. 3 hours later, the tracker showed a remote location 100 kilometers from the city. Jade called her only possible ally, Trevor Bennett. Victoria cancelled Clara's experimental treatments over the last 5 years, Trevor revealed when she found him. Procedures that could have restored some of her vision. "Why?" Jade asked, horrified. "Guilt. Control." Victoria believes that if Clara regains her sight, she will see her mother for who she really is, the person responsible for her blindness. The GPS guided them to an isolated clinic. Through the window, they saw Victoria arguing with a doctor while Clara waited, confused, in an exam room. "She repeats the tests twice a year to ensure Clara remains blind," Trevor explained. "She hires specialists to confirm there's no hope, even when there is." Clara turned her head toward them as if she could sense their presence. "Enough," Jade declared, determined. "Clara deserves the truth." As they entered, Victoria paled. "What are you doing here?" "It's over, Victoria," Trevor said, holding out a folder. "I have copies of everything: the accident, the cover-up, the denied treatments." "You don't understand," Victoria whispered, desperation in her voice. "I can't lose her." "She already knows," Jade interrupted, pointing to Clara, who was approaching silently. "I always knew, Mom," Clara said, her voice small but firm. "I heard you crying every night. What I never understood was why you didn't let me try to see again." Victoria fell to her knees. Clara, Mom, Clara touched her mother's face, mapping her tears. I wouldn't hate you for the truth. I hate you for the lies. It was as if a house of cards had collapsed. The powerful Victoria Bennet, reduced to a woman broken by guilt and fear. The doctor approached hesitantly. Miss Clara, the new treatment has a 60% chance of partial recovery. Your mother has refused it for 5 consecutive years. Clara turned to Jade, seeking her hand. What would you do? It doesn't matter what I would do, Jade replied, holding the girl's hand. What matters is what you want. Victoria watched, transfixed by shock, as her daughter finally made a decision that should have been hers long ago. The empire built on control began to crumble, not from public exposure, but from the simple power of truth between mother and daughter. I want to try the treatment, Clara finally declared, her voice stronger than ever. And I want Jade to be with me throughout the process. Victoria's eyes, always calculating and cold, now overflowed with something no one in that room had ever seen before: genuine vulnerability. And as she silently nodded to her daughter's decision, something fundamental began to change in their relationship. What no one could have predicted at that moment was that the real miracle would not only be the possible recovery of Clara's sight, but the painful and necessary beginning of the healing of a family torn apart by secrets and guilt. And for Victoria Bennet, the hardest lesson was just beginning. Sometimes salvation comes from the very people we think we can manipulate. 6 months passed. Autumn covered the Bennet mansion garden with golden leaves, while Clara, wearing special dark glasses, pointed excitedly at the nearest tree. I can see the outline. It's brown and orange at the same time, she exclaimed, her voice overflowing with joy. The experimental treatment had been a partial success. Clara had not regained her sight completely, but she could now distinguish shadows, outlines, and on good days, some colors. For someone who had lived in darkness for 5 years, it was like rediscovering the world. Watching the scene from the porch, Victoria held a cup of tea with slightly trembling hands. Her corporate empire remained intact, but something fundamental had changed within her. The fall had not been public or financial, it had been personal. It's still hard for her, Trevor commented, sitting down next to his sister. Seeing Clara get better means confronting what she did. And what I didn't do, Victoria added, her voice devoid of its usual coldness. 5 years lost to fear and guilt. Trevor smiled softly. But not 7 or 10 or a lifetime. You finally stopped running. At Bennet Technologies, the changes were visible to everyone. The relentless CEO now left promptly at 5 to attend Clara's therapy sessions. The Bennet Foundation for Visually Impaired Children, once a mere public relations front, had become a real priority, funding innovative research and affordable treatments. Jade watched these transformations with cautious optimism. She continued to work as Clara's companion, but now she also coordinated the Foundation's social programs. Her brother Daniel dazzled audiences at Wellington Academy, his talent finally finding the stage it deserved. Did you know this would happen? Victoria asked one afternoon as they watched Clara and Daniel play piano together. That she could get better, that I could change? Jade thought for a moment. I knew Clara deserved a chance. As for you, let's just say I bet on the possibility. Victoria nodded, understanding. You know what scares me the most? It's not the idea of Clara blaming me for the accident. It's realizing how much time I spent trying to control everything and everyone when the only real control we have is over our own choices. That night, Victoria called Jade into her office. On the table lay a set of documents. "I want you to run the foundation," she announced without preamble. "Not as an employee, as a partner." Jade examined the papers, stunned. Victoria was offering her 40% of the foundation, complete autonomy, and a budget that could help thousands of children. "Why?" asked Jade, still suspicious after months of psychological games. "Because you saw my daughter when I only saw her disability," Victoria replied simply. "Because you saw truth where I only saw control. And because the foundation needs someone who understands that compassion cannot be bought." There was sincerity in the eyes of the woman who just 6 months earlier believed that everything and everyone had a price. On Clara's birthday, the Bennett mansion welcomed guests for the first time in years, not executives or politicians, but children from the foundation and their families. In the center of the garden, Clara, now wearing glasses that allowed her to distinguish basic shapes and colors, proudly presented an exhibition of tactile sculptures she had created to see with her hands, as she explained to visitors. "Any regrets?" Trevor asked Jade, watching his sister interact with the families without a trace of her former condescension, about joining this crazy family. Jade smiled. "Not for a second." A child approached, asking Victoria if she was blind too, confused by seeing her with Clara. "No, dear," Victoria replied, kneeling down to the boy's level. "But I used to be, in a way. My daughter and a very special friend taught me how to see." Later, when everyone had left, Clara gave Victoria a gift, a small painting she had made, mixing textures and the few colors she could distinguish. "To remind you that sometimes we have to lose something to truly appreciate what we have," she explained. Victoria Bennett, the woman who thought she could control destiny, had learned the most valuable lesson of her life from a waitress who refused to be priced and a daughter brave enough to choose the truth, even when it was painful. Her empire remained, but its foundations had been completely transformed. As for Jade, she discovered that changing lives didn't require power or money, just the courage to remain true to her values when everyone around her was for sale. Sometimes the simple act of seeing people as they truly are, beyond their disabilities, social status, or past mistakes, is the first step toward transforming not just one life, but entire generations. If this story of redemption and transformation touched your heart, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more stories that show how small acts of kindness can trigger profound change, only on Black Voices. And share in the comments, have you ever witnessed how a simple act of compassion completely changed the course of a life? Sometimes all we need to start over is someone who sees beyond our shortcomings and reminds us that our story is not over.